Hello and welcome. Welcome to another installment of our Grand Guard reunion activities for the class of 1970. We hope that each and every one of you are staying safe in these most unprecedented of times. My name is Heather Ashley, Senior Director of Reunions and Programs here at the UF Alumni Association, and I'm excited to virtually bring a piece of Gainesville to each of you today. This is a very special session that we have planned today in honor of Veterans Day, and hopefully between some of the current cadet experience, some of the alumni experience, and then obviously our decorated veterans and UF administrators that we have here, you'll not only be able to reflect on maybe some of your time in your service, but then also be very grateful for the opportunities that are ahead for many of these cadets in front of us today. While we're obviously sad we can't see you in person, we hope that these activities help you connect with your classmates, help you learn about what's happening at UF since maybe you last stepped foot on campus about 50 years ago. And I hope you leave the session even more proud to be a Florida Gator. I'll put the link for the Grand Guard Class of 1970 reunion website in the chat if you want to learn more about the upcoming activities that we have, both with our Breakfast of Memories this coming Friday, but then also some of the other college and unit activities that are occurring at this point in time as well. I'll also put the link to our very own Grand Guard background that you can use if you would like in this activity, or if you have any other Zoom activities that you are going to be attending for your college or unit. I'd like to say a special thank you to those alumni members of the Grand Guard 1970 Task Force that are here with us today. They have provided guidance and insight as we've navigated this ever-changing COVID world and are helping us determine any future reunion plans that we may have for the class of 1970. They are Adrienne Garcia, Carlos Del Sol, Delphine Jackson, Larry Tyree, and Bill Carr. We also want to thank our presenting sponsor, OCAMIC, for supporting this year's reunion and helping us connect with our alumni in both new and exciting ways. Before we begin today's session, I wanted to review some housekeeping items. The session is going to be recorded and will be uploaded to the Grand Guard website for you to view at a later date and to also share with any classmates who weren't able to join us today. Session will last approximately 30 to 45 minutes, followed by a Q&A session at the end. We ask that you please keep yourself on mute during the duration of the meeting so that we can maximize the enjoyment of all those who are attending today. When we get to the Q&A portion, if you have a question, please feel free to submit it in the Q&A, and we will be able to go through those questions one by one. Are there any questions before I introduce today's cadet moderator? Perfect. All right, well, Cadet Captain Chaswava Aledo is the Recruiting and Alumni Officer at Detachment 150, University of Florida. She is responsible for maintaining contact with UF and Detachment 150 alumni, as well as recruiting potential cadets for the AF ROTC program. Cadet Captain Chaswava Aledo will graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry, as well as a minor in Central and Eastern European Studies from UF in spring 2022. She's also a member of the Arnold Air Society and served as Squadron Commander for the 2019-2020 academic year. Outside of AF ROTC, she is a member of the service sorority Delta Nu Zeta. She currently works as an office assistant for a local psychiatrist, and some of her responsibilities include interacting with patients, making appointments, and dealing with insurance companies. This semester, she's working on earning her emergency first responder license in hopes to join the Gator Responder unit on campus that works with UFPD. Her current career goal is to be a doctor in the Air Force. Please join me in welcoming Chaswava Aledo.
Thank you, Heather, for that really nice introduction. So just want to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming out today, and I'm very excited to be your moderator. But before we begin with the panelist Q&A, I'd like to go through an introduction of each of our panelists. So to begin with, we have the honor of having Major General David E. Kratzer, and he is a distinguished military graduate who received his ROTC commission and Bachelor of Science degree from Western Illinois University. He also holds a Master of Science degree from the University of Illinois. Major General Kratzer's career included 3 company commands, 2 battalion commands, command of the 3rd Transportation Movement Control Agency, and command of the 32nd Transportation Group. General Kratzer also served as the Director of Transportation Operations for the 143rd Transportation Command. After retiring from the Army in 2006, Major General Kratzer was inducted into the United States Army Transportation Corps Hall of Fame, the United States Army ROTC National Hall of Fame, and he was the 2017 recipient of the Military Order of the World War's Distinguished Service Award. In 2016, Major General Kratzer retired as the Vice President for Student Affairs from the University of Florida after serving as the chair of the UF-ROTC Committee, member of the Advisory Board for Warrington College of Business Veterans Entrepreneurial Program, and senior mentor to the UF Collegiate Veterans Society. And then I also want to introduce Kimberly. So Kimberly is an entrepreneur whose work lies at the intersection of arts, entertainment, and public health. She is the engagement manager for the Center of Arts and Medicine in the College of the Arts at the University of Florida. As a visionary, creator, and storytelling educator, Kimberly's entrepreneurial approach challenges perspectives that reinforce the status quo and leans toward the discovery of possibilities. Her distinct value is her ability to cultivate insightful conversations. Kimberly has worked with thousands of people and facilitated hundreds of meaningful dialogues for the purpose of expanding perspectives on how we can improve our lives and the lives of others in society. She believes anything is possible when creating consciously. And I'd also just like to point out what exactly the Veterans Entrepreneurship Program is. So it provides a rigorous entrepreneurial learning and development opportunity for veterans with service-connected disabilities and those who have uniquely distinguished themselves in the military. VEP is designed for veterans interested in starting a new venture as a means to financial independence and for veterans who have existing business for which they would like to increase profits. And then I'd also like to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Shannon Moore. So Lieutenant Colonel Shannon Moore is the commander of Air Force ROTC Detachment 150 at the University of Florida. He is responsible to the university president and the Air Force ROTC commander for recruiting, training, motivating, and educating Air Force officer candidates. He is the chairman of the Department of Aerospace Studies with the rank of full professor and instructs the AS-200 sophomore level course on leadership development and the AS-400 senior level course on national security. He graduated from the Ohio State University in 2000 and was commissioned in the United States Air Force through ROTC in 2000. He graduated from undergraduate intercontinental ballistic missile operations training in Vandenberg Air Force Base in 2001. He has had a variety of missile operations and training assignments and served on the PACAF staff as the country director for Australia, New Zealand, and Oceania. And then also I would like to introduce Lieutenant Catherine Eifert. So Lieutenant Catherine Eifert grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, where her father flew F-15s for the Florida National Guard. That inspired her to join the University of Florida Air Force ROTC, which she did graduate this past spring and received her commission from. She'll be attending pilot training in Texas this coming year, so we're very excited for her. And then I'd also like to introduce Cadet Andrew Harris. So Cadet Andrew Harris is here representing Army ROTC at the University of Florida. He's a third-year psychology student, originally from Houston, Texas, and grew up playing baseball. He also serves on the Florida National Guard. And then we also have with us Midshipman Brandon Roberts. He's a senior in the Navy ROTC program pursuing a mechanical engineering degree. He's from Virginia Beach, Virginia, and is hoping to serve as select pilot next fall. And then we have Cadet Medina. Cadet Medina is a senior Air Force ROTC cadet studying aerospace engineering. He has been awarded a pilot slot and will attend U.S. Air Force pilot training following graduation. A long-term goal of his is to attend the U.S. Air Force Test Pilot School. And we also have Cadet Lauren Nemai. So Cadet Lauren Nemai is a third year studying international studies, economics, and French, and hopes to one day be a pilot or foreign affairs officer. As a military brat, she moved 8 times before leaving for college, but graduated from high school in Anchorage, Alaska. She also serves as the vice commander of Arnold Air Society this year, and she's a member of the sorority Alpha Phi. And then we also have Midshipman Maria Dawson. She will be joining us a little bit later, but I would like to introduce her just in case she does pop in. And she is a first-class midshipman from the UF Naval ROTC program. This spring, she'll be graduating with the Bachelor of Science in Sustainability and the Built Environment and commissioning as a student naval aviator. She's grateful for everything UF has given her, and she cannot wait to come back and visit throughout her naval career. She says, "Go Gators and fly Navy." And also with us, we have Midshipman Austin Sullivan. Midshipman Austin Sullivan graduated from Gulf Breeze High School in 2017 and has been studying computer science since then. And that would conclude all of our panelists. So again, I want to thank all of our panelists for coming out today and spending time with us. So how this is going to work is I have some questions for all of our panelists, and the goal is to promote some discussion, talk about things like why they joined the military, what the military has taught them, and what they'd like to see for the future. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with the first question, which is, what was your motivation for joining the military? And I would like to start off discussion with Major General Kratzer, if possible.
Well, thank you. First of all, I'd really like to thank the UF Alumni Association for continuing this great tradition and having our Grand Guard celebration every year. Just a phenomenal tradition here at the University of Florida. Heather, thanks to you and your staff for all that you do. Thanks to all of the Grand Guard members who have tuned in today to see what it's like on campus and to hear from this great panel. I joined ROTC and because strictly for one reason, and that was because I was married as a sophomore. My wife and I had one child in school, and I was not going to allow myself in Vietnam era to get drafted and try to support a family on a private's pay. So that was my motivation. What might be more interesting is, why did I stay all these years? And that was because of great mentorship and opportunities to do things in the military that I didn't even know existed when I first went in. So for all of you other panel members, we might want to hear from you from about 10 years out to find out what you're actually doing and what you thought you were going to do today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And if anyone else would like to jump in, please feel free to do so.
Hey, I'll just quickly add that I think General Kratzer stole my notes. I was a married sophomore with a kid, and so ROTC seemed like the right path once I joined it, and I absolutely loved it. My intent was to do 4 years and get out, and I've only stayed in because of the camaraderie, the mentoring, the friendships, the mission, and the support network of the Air Force family has just been phenomenal. So my journey has been just a great family atmosphere for our family and the Air Force family at large.
I guess I'll go real fast. I joined late in my college career, didn't know really what I wanted to do. I joined it when I was a junior in college. Mainly, I was a dependent for all my life. My father was in the military before me, and it was when I realized that my military dependent ID would expire when I was 23. And then I was like, wait, no, so I can't get on base anymore. I'm not going to be around these amazing people. So I joined after that, and I never looked back. So.
I know I kind of had a similar background to Lieutenant Eifert, where this is really all I've ever known. I'm like, I'm not really sure if this is something that I want to leave yet. You know, I really appreciate the caliber of the people that I've met within this program, the people that I've met that are on active duty, and the opportunities that come with it professionally, you know, recreationally, if you want to go like travel or something because you're based in Germany, like go for it. So I know personally, after seeing all of that, I ultimately made the decision to join. I know that I'm not in the military yet, but just for future reference, you know, being part of something that's bigger than I am, the educational and professional opportunity, the structure, the culture, and the people, most importantly, for sure.
I think I probably joined because I'm from Virginia Beach, so I see the military environment all the time around me, especially Navy. Like there's planes flying overhead right now. So I just kind of wanted to do something involved with that. Like everybody that, like all my professors in high school were like the smartest people I knew were all like ex-pilots or like former Marines. So I just wanted to be part of something like that. So.
I can jump in real quick. I kind of have a different route. I didn't grow up in a military family at all or really around it. But if we jump back in time, it was senior year in high school when I was pursuing a scholarship to play baseball somewhere. That was my plan all throughout growing up. And I was at a recruiting event at Cornell University up in New York. And one of the colleges that approached me was West Point. And I didn't know anything about West Point or ROTC for that matter at the time. But I started looking into it and something ultimately caught my eye. But obviously West Point didn't work out. I would say now that's for the better, as I love it here at UF. But that led me to ROTC, and I have to agree that the camaraderie and just kind of atmosphere of the whole thing is really hard to leave. So that's my motivation.
All right, then we can go ahead and move on to the next question. So for those of you who had parents in the military, how did their service influence your decision to serve?
Yes, if nobody else is going to go first, I'll knock it out. So I've already talked about this a little bit with my last answer, where growing up, I was exposed to a lot of things that I feel like a lot of people weren't. You get to travel and stuff. I get to live in Germany for a year. I lived in Alaska twice. A lot of people don't get that opportunity. And I feel like I've learned a lot about myself and other people, and just like kind of gaining and respecting new perspectives all over the place. And I've really appreciated that. And I feel like that was the main influence. But I know that personally, when I was applying for the program, my dad made it very clear, do not do this because you think I want to do it, do because you want to do it. And I really appreciate that as well. I cannot stress enough how much this program has changed my life for the better.
And I will, I guess, second that, because I mentioned my dad was in it for a while and still is. And it was mainly the values, I think, that I was brought up, like we had on our refrigerator, service before self, all the Air Force values. And so I was never interested in it when he was actually flying. I didn't think I'd want to get into aviation or anything. I did not do that at the beginning of my college career, but it was mainly when I recognized, not in the military, that many people don't adhere to those same values, that I was really craving an organization that maintained how I was raised. And so I think largely it's very inspiring being around other service members. And when you're on base and you're leaving you're getting to the gym at 5:30 and half the people are leaving because they were there at 4:30. It's just inspiring. And I realized it was the best fit, made me always want to be better. So I think mainly seeing my dad always pursuing those values and growing up that way and wanting to maintain that the rest of my life, hopefully.
Anybody else with parents in the military?
I would, through the years, I've asked that same question to students that I've met who have had parents in the military and have grown up as that being their life. And the best answer that I think I ever got, we had a colonel who lived in California, and he was dropping his daughter off, who was on a track scholarship here. And he was worried because it was the first time she had lived outside of a base. So he was concerned how this would work at the University of Florida. He found out about me, and they tracked me down, came to my office, and he pretty much asked me, would I kind of be a dad away from home for this young woman? I quickly found out she didn't need me. I was there if she did, but the answer was, and I said, what did you learn about having to move so many times and being a military brat? And she looked me right in the eye and said, You learn not to spend time with people who don't matter. I thought that was brilliant.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I'd also like to add, actually, I didn't have any parents that were in the military. However, my dad did go to a military boarding school in high school. And the reason why he pushed it on me, or I guess sort of pushed it, or at least brought up the idea, was because he told me his biggest regret was never joining the military. So, and then also, we'll move on to the next question, and that is, how has military education changed over the years? And that can be in terms of ROTC or pilot training, anything like that.
I guess I'd like to jump in on that because I've been around more years than, along with my pal Larry Tyree, I see out there. Hi, Larry. And I guess I'm on this panel to be the same age group as this Grand Guard group. I graduated in 1970, so I could fit right into this era and address that. It's been interesting. I think the biggest single impact that I have seen, which I think's impacted the training in ROTC and West Point and everywhere else, is the conversion of our military to an all volunteer force. As someone who experienced it before, and now it's so much better now, and better for you to work as you go out in your young careers, to work with people who want to be there. Everybody has different motivations and a different reason and a different life plan. But the fact that people aren't being forced to be part of a workforce is so different. And I think it's made a huge, huge difference in the opportunities. And then the second thing would be what we ask of you as cadets and midshipmen today is a handful. And what you will be given, the responsibilities you'll be given as young officers will be tremendous as compared to just about anything you could do with your beginning career as you start off in life. So you start off with a tremendous advantage. The preparation for that and the great work that Colonel Moore and everybody else is doing over there in Van Fleet Hall is to prepare you to handle challenges that we can't imagine today. It's a big job. And but I think that's the biggest difference I see.
Yes, sir.
I would say there's been a huge influence of technology recently in military training or military education, especially like things like how we communicate, like as far as our battalion chain of command goes. Like we'll have group meetings with our divisions and like a message to Roger up for PT or whatever. And then like if a PT is getting moved to Southwest because it's raining, we can do that at 5 a.m. on the day of. Also, like we add it into our actual courses. Like for instance, we have a ship driving simulator down with Navy. So I know even like my freshman year, we didn't have that, but then this year, everyone in my navigation class got to go and pretend to be the conning officer of a destroyer, and you actually got to go do like man overboard drills, and like you were in a virtual reality, so you got to do that. So I'd say it's definitely has its advantages to where like you have like the ability to do stuff faster as far as switching stuff, but you also have less of face-to-face interactions, especially right now during the pandemic. But so that's a big difference.
And I just want to jump in really quickly and introduce another panelist, Kimberly. She just joined in on the Zoom call. So Kimberly, if you'd like to go ahead, jump in, answer some questions, you're more than welcome to.
As far as I am hearing from what you all are talking about, my journey through military training was a bit different. I enlisted after completing my bachelor's degree. And I joined 2 weeks before 9/11. So that was an eye opener, because you talked about people join the military for different reasons. For me, I felt like I did all the things that our elders said to do through school, did the grades, kept the scholarship, did all the things. And I got to grown-up life and I was like, there's got to be more than this. And I had a friend that is now my ex-husband that was going to a recruiter to find out about being in the Army. And so I was with him trying to figure out, what does this mean for our life together? And I was listening like, he gets all of that? Really? Why did no one tell me about this thing? Right? Because I was on a trajectory that was school, career, which is pretty traditional. But I did all that, and grown-up life did not afford what was promised. And so I realized that I needed something more. And I was like, well, I could go to grad school and be right where I am again, or I can do 4 years in the Army and get all the training and the knowledge and everything that they were telling him about. And I would only get it because I was married to him. I was like, I can get it for myself. And I knew at that point in my life what I wanted to be when I grew up. Not completely, but I knew enough. I wanted to help people. Live the best life that they could live. And so I had found public health. So I was applying to grad school for public health, but I knew I wanted to learn how to engage with people. So I actually enlisted as a mental health specialist in 2001, 2 weeks before 9/11. So my whole time serving, 2001 to 2005, I was deployed and served as a mental health specialist and learned how to talk to people one-on-one about how to overcome challenges in that frame. So how that has changed over time. So I served for 4 years, but I can tell you, coming in active duty and now being a veteran, receiving, all the things that come with being a veteran through the VA system. When 9/11 happened, mental health was still called combat stress. And we were doing, we were helping veterans or service members come home. And at that time, they were saying that the anti-malaria drug was making service members come home and kill their spouses. And so our job at that time was to kind of help people before they get home, redeploy. We tell them what support was available. And while we were there, we made them know who we were. But people weren't talking about PTSD at the time. We weren't talking about suicide. We were doing suicide awareness with each other, right? How to be a good battle buddy, how to pay attention to what's going on with your buddy. What I notice now on the other side, looking at what service members are getting now, is far bigger and broader than what we got 19 years ago. Oh my gosh, 19 years ago. See, I don't look it though, so it's fine. But I would say from my experience, that's the biggest difference, is from care of the service member while you're in, for preventative things on well-being, and how service members are trained. I have my bachelor's is actually in kinesiology, exercise, phys, and wellness. And coming in basic training, I'm like, why do they have us doing this? Like, this is going to break people's bones over time. And it was. So I notice now, as I talk to current service members, training is different, right? There's more prevention and more attention to things in a different way, because there's new knowledge, new technology, new understanding of how to care for you all. Because when there wasn't as much knowledge, they did the best that they can do, but now there's so much more. You are reaping the benefits. And I'm happy to see that the vets that came before me are also getting things that they didn't get when they were coming through. So that's from my experience, that's what I see.
Thank you. And then also we'll go ahead and move on to the next question. So this one's a little bit more general, but how is current military service different than in decades prior?
So I obviously have not been in for decades, but in conversations with my dad, and it's been fun comparing my experiences versus his experiences. This also piggybacks off of your last question, is military training. There's women going through pilot training, female fighter pilots dealing with The concept of having children if you owe 12 years as a female pilot. Like, from my perspective, these are, things that I enjoy talking about and learning how to do that, and something that they didn't do back in '82 when my dad graduated. So that was a big thing. I think more diversity, more emphasis on inclusion and things like that. But I also haven't been in that long, so I'll defer to maybe older people in the military as well.
Well, Colonel Moore, that's either you or me. So I'll just start off being much older than you. An interesting thing happened. I went to Fort Jackson several years ago. And after going through, I went through basic training at Fort Benning. And it was still dark ages. So it was a much different experience. What I learned at Fort Jackson was how the military has learned to adjust and address some of the things that Kimberly is talking about. I was amazed. The colonel in charge of basic training at Jackson gave me a Humvee and a driver and said, go wherever you want to and look at whatever you want to, and I'll talk to you when you come back and tell me what you see. So that's a pretty bold thing for somebody to do, to turn somebody loose in their own operation and just let them go wherever they want to. What I found out was that in the old days, it was like the movies. It was a lot of screaming and running around and waking up in the middle of the night and being half terrorized as a young person. And then there was a theory that you broke people down for several weeks during basic training, and then you had a period of time where you sustained, and then you built them up before graduation. What I saw at Fort Jackson was just the opposite. Drill sergeants didn't ask anybody to do anything that they didn't do first, whether that was to clear a wall and show you how to do that, to go through an obstacle course. It was quite challenging to be a drill sergeant. The other thing was the complexity of the training for the trainees. We never had to, when I went through, we never had to learn how to be a combat medic. And I saw basic trainees give each other IVs. So you and I could be partners. First time, here you go. You give me an IV, and hopefully you do it pretty well, because now I get to do it to you. So it was a whole different level of technology, Brendan, that you talked about. It was a different level of experience and how much information that was provided. When I went back and talked to the colonel, I said, how did this happen? And he said, it finally dawned on us. The world's a complex place, and we don't have time to break people down and then build them up. We start to build them up from the day they come through the door. I think that is a huge change in our approach to the military today.
I love that you said that, because my combat medic training came in handy yesterday. I got injured in my good civilian life, and I was like, okay, I know how to do this. Stop the bleeding. And I was using all of those skills. I was in my unit, I was in a medical unit, as you can see on my wall. I was the only mental health asset with all combat medics. And so Combat Lifesaver was, well, we're sending you out to the drop zone with everybody else to help people. We might need to teach you how to do some of these things. So all that stuff came in handy yesterday, so I didn't bleed out in a hotel room yesterday. So I appreciate you sharing that. But also, on top of all of the things, as a mental health specialist and serving during that time, a lot of the people that were in the chair across from me were my age and older. I was old at 23 when I joined, because I already went through undergrad and stuff. So I was old. But most of the people that I sat in front of were young people, 18, 19 years old. And they were people older than me and higher ranking than me in my job, right? Because nobody really understood or wanted to touch mental health, because you don't want to get told that you got to go or that you went in something until you're in a war zone and you're scared and you want to go home. People think you go to mental health to get sent home, and that's not what we do. We're a force multiplier, right? So what I realized that helped me in my civilian life is that young people actually have a lot of things that they come into the military with. So as you're saying, like, they don't have time to break you down and build you up. A lot of people come in already broken down. A lot of people come in with a lot of challenges that they already have. So it doesn't make sense as an employer to further break people down that are already broken. So I appreciate you sharing that story, because that also helps me feel awesome, because what I do now is I help adults not be sucky to young people as they're on their way to being able to be grown up, because adults in young people's lives tend to be their worst enemies. And it doesn't make sense to then take them from your experience of just trying to figure out how to be a parent, figuring out how to be a teacher, figuring out how to be a mentor, and then bring them somewhere else where they're going to get broken down. So I appreciate being a veteran. I appreciate what's been going on from a health perspective, as health has been my root, and helping people live their best life has always been my thing before I joined the military, to see how the military has grown and taking care of service members and veterans better than they did when all of us first started. Regardless of what era you started, they're doing a better job than they were doing when we were coming in.
I can kind of,
Actually, Cadet Harris, your comments are more important than mine. Go ahead.
thank you, sir. I can kind of piggyback off of what General Kratzer was saying about the kind of transitioning towards less of a breaking down the soldier as it pertains to basic training in the Army. I read an article a couple weeks ago how they're now doing away with the infamous shark attack, which was the ultimate beatdown right when you arrive at basic training, and now they're kind of replacing it with an event that's promoting camaraderie and team building. So it's encouraging, you could say, to see the Army taking a new approach that could prove itself to be more productive and ultimately establishing their soldiers.
What is the shark attack? Is that like 0 day when everybody's yelling at you before you go to do stuff? Is that what shark attack is?
That's generally what it is.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Let's call it 0 day, like you getting beat up, but this doesn't count. Like, thank you for sharing.
Probably not over decades, but at least in the last 4 years that I've been in RHC, I have noticed that we have changed the way we train our incoming midshipmen a lot. For instance, my freshman year, a week, we had an active duty gunnery sergeant come in, like DI, like yell at us and stuff for the entire week. Whereas now we're doing more leadership reaction courses, mentorship time, just showing the freshmen how to wear their uniforms and stuff. So I've definitely seen a change just in the last 4 years.
So I got a couple things. So could I effort on behalf of the older people, if you don't mind, I'll go next. So on the short term, this with COVID and everything we've been able to do, the Zoom format is fantastic. It's also challenging, but it's fantastic. Is it Cadet or how do you say it? Mid Roberts? How do you say mid? Is it Midi?
Midshipman.
Midshipman, thank you. So here we are zooming with him, and if all of you can tell in that top right-hand corner, he's got a pink stuffed animal up there, right? And so here we are viewing into his personal world and looking into Zoom, and he's bringing that to us. Just last week, Cadet Leto hosted PACAF 4-star General Wilsbach, and she set that entire thing up. And from everything between both, you can see that they are leading in technology, but also what you cannot see, this is comfortable, this format of Zoom is comfortable. What you cannot see when you ask the question, what's changed in education and training, I'll give you what's possibly more importantly, what hasn't changed. When I started at RTC in 1997 as a cadet, and now that I'm back as commander, there's a lot of differences in technology and application and how we execute the education and training. But one thing that really has not changed is asking young folks to step up and to lead. And so when we get a brand new freshman in, and they're very uncomfortable with public speaking or just taking charge of humans, it's amazing to see that growth in a very short period of time. And all of a sudden they're getting ready to graduate as seniors, and they are leaders with character, ready to lead people in the greatest military in the world. And to see that transition is absolutely fantastic.
I guess one caveat, if I may. The university has been great to me. So through an unusual set of circumstances, I had a very close relationship with 3rd Army and U.S. Central Command while I was working here. So after 9/11, 9 days later, I found myself in Egypt on the ground. And then shortly after, I was given a command, and I was in Afghanistan in December of 2001. 80% of my guys were special forces, and they were working in small teams throughout the country. I'm not special forces, so a lot was entrusted to me as a reservist. So for those of you who are thinking about what you're going to do and how it's going to happen, I'm telling you, don't write the script ahead of time. You will be amazed where you go. What I did find when I got there was the intelligence and the latitude offered to us when we were way far away from command headquarters, and there weren't very many of us out there. My initial team had 13 people, and technology-wise, we had one satellite phone. And at that time, Afghanistan didn't have a lot of coverage, so you had to speak fast. We kind of knew the timing when the satellite came over, low to the horizon, and send things out in a burst, and then it would be gone. We'd have to wait for it to come back. We've come so far since then, and what we've learned, the benefit that you will have, and I think benefited maybe our entire society, was the amount of technology, everything from how to track packages, the same technology that UPS and FedEx uses today. The people out there from my era in 1970, we had no clue where anything was until it arrived, and then you had to open up some big container and find out, send some poor person in there to find out what was actually stored in that container. And all of the technology and the capability we have today have extended our capacity, but also requires you to be smarter and more capable than we ever were.
Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and move on to the next question, which is, what does it mean to be a Florida Gator and a service member?
I want to jump on that one. So I was introduced, or my relationship with UF started as a part of the Veterans Entrepreneurship Program back in 2014. I don't know if you all are familiar with that, but basically what the program does is it, if you are a veteran, a disabled veteran, and you have a business or a business idea, they help you make it a thing, help you make it grow through education, through like an intensive week, and of like more education and mentorship. It's like a 10-month program. And I was unemployed at the time. And I was also pregnant with my first son. And I was at the height of my civilian career at the time. And so feeling pretty like, what is this? I went to, I was getting unemployment at the time actually too, trying to figure out like, how did I build this amazing life? And right when I'm pregnant with my first child, I have no job. What does this mean? And what happened was the unemployment counselor handed me this paper because I told him I want to create something that I haven't seen, that I need for myself, and it isn't out there. I want to create something, but I don't know what to do. And he said, UF has a Veterans Entrepreneurship Program. And I was like, okay. And I literally, I filled out the application, I applied with this little idea I had. This is before, it actually is like a, back then it was like a Facebook group, but I didn't know what it was and nobody knew what Facebook groups were. But I got into the program and I met a ton of other veterans, and I learned about what entrepreneurship was about. And I realized that just as strange as we are in the world of civilians to be a veteran or a service member, being an entrepreneur is just that strange, but it needs those same skills that we have, the tenacity, leadership, a compelling vision. And that's how I was introduced to this. And my little idea, the things that I learned about being learned active duty was be tenacious. I asked those people questions. I was like, you said to work this system, and I'm working it, and I'm asking you everything that you have. You told me that you have available and you want to give to me. Because when I was coming through basic training and all the rest, tenacity and standing by each other and all of that, and being creative and figuring out what to do with this 550 cord when they didn't give you all the rest of the stuff that you need to get the mission done, I was going to figure out what it was. And I was able to win the Entrepreneurship Spirit Award, and it completely changed my world. Fast forward, I went on to doing my second master's in entrepreneurship. And I went on to do a ton of other really cool things and help other veterans start their business and give back in that way to the program that completely changed my life. And I'm doing a lot of really cool things now because of the things I learned. And I definitely attribute being a Gator. Before I was an official alumni Gator, I was a veteran VEP alumni. And I say I'm a naturalized Gator because I went to Temple University for undergrad, but Gators brought me in and took care of me and continue to take care of me. So now I also work at the College of the Arts because I also found that I'm an artist. And being on the stage actually helps other people and tell my story, and all the things have helped me help other veterans. And it's actually helping me bring value in a place that's brought so much value to me in this entrepreneurship spirit and all the really cool things that I've gotten from the things that you just said. What is it like? Has brought all this to me that I'm now able to give back.
I can give the question a decent answer if no one else wants to jump in. So being a Florida Gator and a service member is kind of a best of both worlds scenario, right? So for me, I followed my two older brothers here from Houston, where we were born and raised. And coming in freshman year, UF was already a top 10 university. Now we're top 6. So it's and some would argue that number is much higher. So UF itself is awesome in many aspects. And then as far as being a service member, the number one thing, you get to be a part of something much, much bigger than yourself. I think there is just a pride in simply wearing the uniform. And ultimately, when we advance further in our careers, I think that'll be exemplified.
I was gonna say there's definitely a sense of camaraderie that you get from finding another person from University of Florida out in the fleet. Like I will say, I did a summer training, I guess after my my sophomore year out in San Diego, and the CO and XO of Coronado, where we went, were both from University of Florida. It's pretty cool. And then I will say, like, I know different pilots I met one guy who had a Florida Gators flight helmet. He did it like the white and blue helmets we have. So that's definitely just something cool to see out in the fleet.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And then we'll go on to the next question, which is, why are military connections important, and how did your military mentors influence you?
Oh my gosh, I can't let that one go. Well, as y'all can see, I'm a talker. I'm also a performer. That's my art. I perform on stage and do things. My military mentor was a social worker, Major Morris. I wish I knew where she was today. I was literally months out of AIT as a mental health specialist and on the ground in Uzbekistan, serving people in mental health. And I was like, I just learned this stuff, right? And I was an E4. But what she taught me was you do the right thing for your troops, no matter what. And so she was willing to stand up for me when others weren't doing right by me and make sure that I was cared for first. Of course, I had to do my job, right? But she taught me a ton about a lot of things. She taught me very happily. At 23, she taught me about the importance of self-care. We had a job that was mentally arduous. Like we weren't firing weapons on the front line, but we were serving those people who were. And so we had to be good in order to be good for them. And so what I find now, how that serves me so well, because I meet so many people in the world that don't know what self-care is. So that lesson about being able to know, like, take a day off and take that day off. It's going to make you better, right? Work hard, do what you need to do, take care of who you need to take care of. She was willing to get chewed out for doing the right thing, not just for me, but in general, and also taught me how to be better. I use a lot of those skills that she taught me when I was 23 years old today in my job. My job is in communications and building relationships with people. So when your mental health in the combat field, nobody wants to talk to you. So I had to figure out, she taught me how to build relationship first, let people know who you are, what you do, but you don't have to harass them and knock on their door and be a bugaboo about it. When they need you, they know where help is and they can come get it from you. That has served me so well in development, like fundraising, sales, leading a team, all the things. That my mentor, Major Morris, I gotta find her. She is somewhere out in the world. Little lady from Chicago.
So this is something that everyone in Air Force ROTC, definitely Colonel Moore, we've had conversations about this, so forgive me for repeating it. But for me personally, I was very close to not taking the pilot slot because it's intimidating to maybe go into it wondering if you want to, especially as a female, have a family. I was raised with an at-home mom. And so but my father was in the military. And so having not seen successful female pilots was big. However, I met some women who flew C-17s and were also, I met a F-22 Vapor female pilot as well. And speaking to them really gave me the encouragement to take that pilot slot and showed me that it can happen and it can be done and can be done very well. And so I found that that has been very, very valuable to me and really is the reason why I got on my path to begin with. And so I made it a purpose my last semester here to talk to other younger females who would contact me and with the same questions that I had, where it's like, how can I do this? And also be a female and want to balance maybe in the future a family. And so that has been an important connection that I've made and that I hope other different females can also make.
I guess I'd like to say that I've had many mentors along the way. I hope you're lucky enough to have that experience. But the two that were kind of bookends for me in what I did was a sergeant first class in ROTC. And I hope you all at some point know a great NCO who puts you on the right path. It's really important. And then the last one was Major General Mike Gaw, who was one of the finest general officers I ever knew and pushed me to do things I didn't know I could do. The interesting thing about both of those people is that they approach leadership from the same point of view, which is that the leader is there to help the team succeed. The leader's not there to have the benefit of getting things because they are a higher rank or because they're in charge. And once you learn that, and once you accept that, and you see the possibilities of helping others to achieve the goal and the mission, there isn't any better satisfaction in life. So I wish that for all of you.
I'll hop in on this one too. If or you can go ahead, Cadet Nima, if you'd like.
I've already talked a bunch. You can go ahead.
Okay. So I've been ROTC for going on 5 years now. I'm doing 5 years for engineering. So I've been a little longer than most people spend in ROTC, but just the mentorship that I've already gotten before I've even been in the service has already been immense. I mean, I graduated high school. And you can see back there, I got this saxophone poster. I played saxophone for 4 years. And to look at, not to say that was a huge part of my life back then, and to see where I am today and how much I've progressed from a sort of shy-ish band kid who definitely needed to be running more to where I'm at now is certainly huge. And it's taught me that definitely you have to seek out those mentors, because for a long time I didn't, and I thought, well, I don't need anybody else. I can do this on my own. And I found out pretty quickly, especially with engineering, that, well, it's not always going to be like that. And I was fortunate enough to have some older cadets who kind of helped me get my footing with engineering, with ROTC, and I'm just looking forward to continuing that as I go on.
I can speak on behalf of the Army ROTC cadre in particular, and saying that they are a crucial role in program retention, not only for myself, but as for the program as a whole. Because as we mentioned earlier, it's completely voluntary. So as a college student, it can be easy to see other paths they might want to take. So this is where the cadre and the instructors come in and kind of show you how ROTC can really play out to your benefit in the end. And also adding on to that, they play a huge role in helping us as cadets see what we want to do with our careers in Big Army. So for instance, they can provide perspective because we have instructors from an array of branches. So they have been instrumental in my development as a cadet.
Yeah, I kind of want to agree with what Lieutenant Eifert and Cadet Harris said, where having those connections are really important. They're kind of two different points. So I'll kind of start with Cadet Eifert and that, like, having that representation, that proximity, growing up in a military household and seeing all the things that it has to offer, and then being able to speak to women pilots and just women service members in general gives you really important insight, especially as someone who is a woman, just to kind of figure out what exactly is out there for you and, you know, what a day in the life is like. And then for Cadet Harris's perspective, we also do things like that. We do a program after the summer, or the summer after your freshman year. It's called Ops Air Force, and it's basically career day on steroids. You get to go see everything the Air Force has to offer. It's super cool. So in that respect, connections in the military sense are not the same as in the civilian world, where it's kind of like, oh, if you know so-and-so, you get the job or whatever. It helps you become the best version of yourself. And that's how you move up, and that's how you become successful in whatever you want to do. So yes, definitely very important, just in a different way than you would expect.
I'll say for Navy, we have a mentor-mentee program where we get to basically, like, we have a older, like, freshman year we get a junior mentee, like a third year mentor, and also a sophomore mentor. So like for me, I had this guy Benjamin Grassi, or now Ensign Grassi, and that was really cool because it gave us a way to get into the unit. Like first start now, it's where we could become better friends with everybody. He can give us advice on like what we needed to do, like how to improve. And then now it's really cool because he's a surface warfare officer, so he can give me like insight into the fleet, like how life changed when he became an ensign, like what it was like being stashed, and now what it's like to be actually in the fleet with a division, what his job's like, how like BDOC was and stuff like that. So pretty cool.
Is my mic work now? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Cool. Excellent. So from the Marine Corps side of things, in terms of connections, Marine Corps is a much smaller branch than the others, obviously. And so throughout the training, pipeline from ROTC to becoming a second lieutenant, we have a lot of opportunity to make connections. We've got 6 weeks at OCS, we've got 6 months at PDS. And during that time period, you make a lot of good friends. You learn a lot in that time period. You make these connections. And the Marine Corps being so small, anytime you go out to your duty station, you go to flight school, if you have a temporary duty assignment, you have these connections already in place. And so you'll never know when you're going to run into someone you attended OCS or TPS with, and they can really show you the ropes and help you kind of hit the ground running if you're put into a situation that you're not really sure what's going on. So that's the Marine Corps side of things.
Well, thank you everybody for sharing all of those great examples. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up the panelist Q&A portion. And I'd like to invite any of our audience members to unmute yourselves if you'd like and ask some questions for our panelists, or share some of your favorite memories from ROTC or your time serving.
I'd like to go ahead and make a comment. My name is Carlos Del Sol. I 1972 graduate industrial engineering. I actually started at UF in 1968. And shortly before I started, the requirement for ROTC was eliminated, so I did not participate in ROTC. And then in 1969 was the first lottery for, and some of you may remember that. So my number was 269. So for some of the young folks, there was a lottery to see who have to join the military and eventually go to Vietnam. It was based on your birthday. So I remember sitting in Murphy dorm with a radio, my roommate and I listening to the date's birthday being called. And my roommate was, he came up, his was number 10, and mine was 290. So eventually my roommate joined the reserve and served. So I have not served in the military, but throughout my whole life, I had admired and appreciate those that have served. And I really want to thank you for your service and for being here today. One other observation I like to make, I retired as Vice President of Global Engineering for the Campbell Soup Company, and my wife and I moved to Gainesville. And for the past 8 years, I've been involved with College of Engineering. And one of the things that I've done is I've lectured on the leadership and advanced leadership class. And I must tell you that some of the sharpest leaders that I've met during my lectures have been some individuals have gone through ROTC. So I commend you for taking ROTC. I think the leadership skills that you'll learn there, as well as in the military, will serve you well throughout your career. So again, thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other audience members that'd like to share anything or ask any questions? All right, well, if there are no more questions, I would just like to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to come and join us on the Zoom call. But before we leave, I wanted to share a quote with all of you. It's one of my favorites. It's something that I've heard since high school. And it's by Isaac Newton, and it reads, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." And I just wanted to say to all of the service members and veterans that without your service, without your dedication and leadership, there would be no shoulders for us to stand on today. So thank you for your service and happy Veterans Day.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you very much to all of our panelists and our moderator for having this wonderful conversation today. I think what stood out to me is obviously there's a wide range of experiences, varying reasons as to why you're serving, the impact the service is having on you. But the one thing that I've noticed is there's a common thread of something that was mentioned earlier, and it was definitely service to others before self. So we wanted to say thank you on behalf of the Alumni Association and all of the Gators for your current service and past service that each of you have given to this country. And we appreciate you taking time today. And we look forward to future conversations with each and every one of you, hearing more about what your experiences are like once you leave the great walls of Gainesville. So thank you again to everybody for your time today. Thank you so much for your participation in another Grand Guard activity. We look forward to hosting you during our Breakfast of Memories on Friday. And feel free to reach out to myself or anybody else here if you have any questions. But everybody stay safe and God bless the USA. Thank you, guys.